The chamber was massive, built to hold representatives from 300 different species. Crystal walls stretched upward into darkness, and the air tasted metallic from the atmosphere processors working overtime. Captain Daniel Ross stood at the human delegation platform, his uniform crisp despite the long journey from Earth. Beside him, Linda Hayes clutched a data tablet containing evidence that would change everything. The Galactic Council had existed for 12,000 years. In that time, humanity had been members for barely 60. They were the newcomers, the loud ones, the species that asked too many questions. Daniel knew this. Every ambassador before him had warned him about pushing too hard. But what Linda had discovered on the outer rim worlds could not be ignored. The Vraxi delegate rose from his elevated seat. His insect body clicked and chittered, translated instantly by the chamber systems. The human delegation requests emergency session time. This is highly irregular. We have protocols. Linda stepped forward. Her voice was steady, though Daniel could see her hands shaking slightly. We have evidence of illegal exploitation on 17 primitive worlds in Sector 904. The Vraxi Corporation has been strip mining planets that house pre-spaceflight civilizations. This violates the Non-Interference Treaty of 3447. The chamber erupted. 300 species began talking at once. The crystalline Lumini delegates glowed brighter, their form of agitation. The furry Corthan representatives howled. The aquatic species in their water tanks bubbled furiously. The council speaker, an ancient Lumine named Christh, pulsed with authority. Silence. The human will present her evidence. Linda activated the holographic display. Images filled the center of the chamber. Worlds stripped of forests. Oceans turned black with chemical runoff. Native populations forced into labor camps. Each image was time-stamped and verified. Daniel had spent 3 months confirming every detail before bringing this to the council. These people had no choice, Linda continued. They were told that cooperation meant survival. Resistance meant orbital bombardment. The Vraxi told them it was the way of the galaxy, that the strong rule the weak. The Vraxi delegates' mandibles clicked rapidly. Those worlds were purchased legally. The natives were compensated. With technology they couldn't understand and contracts written in languages they couldn't read, Daniel interjected. You gave them trinkets and took their entire planets. More chaos in the chamber. Daniel noticed something troubling. The elder races, the ones who had been council members for thousands of years, looked annoyed. Not at the Vraxi. At him, a Lumini elder named Prism spoke, its voice like wind chimes. The human species has been with us for 6 decades. In that time, you have filed more complaints than any species in council history. You challenge traditions that have maintained galactic peace for millennia. Peace for who? Linda shot back. The Kalari lost their water rights to Vraxi industrial plants. The Sithri are locked in labor contracts that span 3 generations. The Morthani homeworld is now a resort for elder species, while its people live in orbital slums. We call this peace? Daniel put a hand on Linda's shoulder. She was right, but her anger was making this worse. He addressed the council directly. We're not trying to disrupt anything. We're trying to help. These younger species have no voice here. Someone needs to speak for them. Christh's glow dimmed, and humanity has appointed itself that voice. Without consultation? Without regard for the complexities of galactic politics? Someone has to, Daniel said simply. The council speaker called for a recess. Daniel and Linda returned to their delegation room aboard the Horizon's Edge. The human diplomatic vessel docked at the station. The ship was small compared to the elder race vessels, but it was home. That went badly, Linda said, dropping into a chair. It went exactly as expected, Daniel replied. He pulled up a screen showing real-time council communications. The channels were burning with activity. They're going to do something. I can feel it. 3 hours later, they were summoned back. The chamber had a different energy now, cold, formal. The elder races had formed a unified front. Christh spoke with finality. The Galactic Council has voted. By a count of 247 to 53, the following resolution has passed. The human species is hereby placed under quarantine for a period of 50 standard years. All human colonies outside the Sol system must be evacuated within 30 days. All trade agreements are terminated immediately. All access to faster-than-light communication networks is revoked. Humanity will have no contact with galactic civilization during this period. Daniel felt the words like physical blows. You're exiling us? For telling the truth? You are not being exiled, Prism corrected. You are being given time to reflect on your place in galactic society, to learn that there are consequences for disrupting the natural order. The natural order, Linda repeated, her voice hollow. You mean your power? The Vraxii delegate clicked triumphantly. The council has spoken. You have 30 days to comply. After that, any human vessel found outside Sol space will be destroyed. The chamber emptied quickly after that. Species that had been friendly to humanity avoided eye contact. The younger species that had benefited from human advocacy looked devastated. A Kalari delegate approached slowly, his amphibian features drooping. I am sorry, he whispered. We voted against this. But there were not enough of us, Daniel nodded numbly. Take care of your people. This isn't over. Back on the horizon's edge, Daniel sat in his captain's chair and opened a channel to Earth. The message would take hours to reach home, but it had to be sent. He looked into the camera and began speaking. Earth Command, this is Captain Daniel Ross. The Council has voted to quarantine humanity for 50 years. We have 30 days to bring everyone home. All our colonies, all our outposts, all our people, they're cutting us off completely. He paused, choosing his next words carefully. They think silence will teach us to obey. They think isolation will break our spirit. They're wrong. We have 30 days to get our people to safety. Then we have 50 years to show them what humanity can do when we're left alone. Linda appeared in the doorway. What do we do now? Daniel stood.
We go home.
We prepare. And when we come back, it won't be as supplicants begging for a seat at their table. It will be as equals they can't ignore. The horizon's edge undocked from the station. As it turned towards Sol, Daniel watched the council station grow smaller in the viewport. Somewhere in that massive structure, the elder races were celebrating their victory. They had silenced the troublesome humans. They had no idea what they had just started. Across the galaxy, on 17 exploited worlds, native populations looked to the sky. The humans who had spoken for them were gone. The Vraxii workers returned, their machinery louder than before. The message was clear. This was the price of hope. This was what happened when someone tried to help. In the darkness of space, the horizon's edge jumped to faster-than-light speed. Behind it, the galaxy continued as it had for thousands of years. The strong ruled. The weak obeyed, and now humanity was alone. 20 years had passed since the last human ship left council space. 20 years of silence from Sol. The galaxy had moved on. Admiral Karen Price walked through Luna Base, her boots echoing on metal floors. Through the viewport, Earth hung like a blue jewel against the black. Somewhere down there, billions of people lived their lives never knowing how close they had come to destruction. The evacuation had been chaos. 30 days to bring home 2 million colonists from 14 systems. They had done it barely. Admiral, the morning briefing is ready, said Lieutenant Jake Morrison, falling into step beside her. He was young, born just after the quarantine began. He had never seen an alien species in person. The briefing room held Earth's top military and scientific minds. Karen took her seat at the head of the table. Status report. Commander Helen Price, Karen's daughter, pulled up a holographic display. The outer system sensors are stable. No council ships have approached the boundary in 6 months. They seem content to leave us alone. Good. Karen turned to the science team. Dr. Grant, what do you have for us? Dr. Peter Grant was thin with gray hair and excited eyes. He practically bounced out of his chair. We've done it. The quantum field drive works. We tested it last week on an unmanned probe. It jumped from Mars orbit to beyond Pluto in 17 minutes. The room went silent. Lisa Morgan, the engineer who had built the drive, smiled quietly. She had worked on this project for 15 years. Without using the hyperspace lanes? Karen asked carefully. Without using anything the Council controls, Peter confirmed. It's completely independent technology. We manipulate local quantum fields to create controlled space-time distortions. It's slower than hyperspace for long distances, but it's ours. Karen allowed herself a small smile. How long until we can put it in a ship? 6 months for a prototype. 2 years for a full production model. 20 years ago, humanity had been dependent on Council technology for everything. Their ships used hyperspace lanes maintained by elder races. Their communications relied on Council networks. Their medicine came from alien worlds. The quarantine was meant to cripple them, instead it had freed them. What about the fusion drives? Karen asked Lisa. The engineer pulled up another display. Operational and efficient. We don't need xenidium crystals anymore. Our drives run on hydrogen, which we have plenty of. We can power a city ship for decades on what we can harvest from Jupiter's atmosphere. Karen nodded. Earth had spent 20 years building infrastructure that needed nothing from the galaxy. They had turned inward and discovered they were far more capable than anyone had believed. There's something else, Helen said quietly. We picked up a distress signal this morning. Outer system near the Kuiper Belt. Every head turned. Council ship? Karen asked. No, it's Kalari. Broadcasting on old human frequencies. The room erupted in discussion. Karen held up a hand for silence. The quarantine? Still in effect, Helen confirmed. We have 10 years left. If we respond, we violate the terms. If we don't respond, people die, Jake added. Karen stood. I'm going out there personally. Helen, you're with me. Everyone else, this conversation never happened. The patrol ship was small and fast. Karen piloted while Helen monitored communications. The Kalari vessel was damaged, leaking atmosphere. Through the viewport, Karen could see scorch marks on its hull. They were attacked, Helen said. Weapons fire recent. Karen opened a channel. Kalari vessel, this is Admiral Price of Earth. We're here to help. The response was weak. Thank the currents. We thought you had abandoned us. They brought the Kalari ship into the patrol dock and sealed it. 3 survivors emerged, their amphibian skin dried and cracking. Karen had medics ready with the water-rich environment they needed. The Kalari captain's name was Moraine. He sat in a medical tank, his body slowly rehydrating. The Vraxi, he said. After you left, they took everything. Our oceans are dead. Industrial waste fills the water. My people are dying. Linda Hayes arrived at the base within hours. She was older now. Lines around her eyes, but her fire was undimmed. She had spent 20 years as Earth's chief strategist, planning for the day humanity would return. Tell us everything, Linda said gently. Moraine's story was grim. Without human advocates in the council, the elder races had accelerated their exploitation. The Kalari weren't alone. The Sithri had been forced into labor contracts with no end dates. The Morthani had lost their homeworld entirely. Dozens of younger species suffered while the council looked away. There's more, Moraine said. The council is planning something called the Hierarchy Enforcement Act. It would make everything legal. It would encode into law that elder races rule and younger races serve. Forever. Karen and Linda exchanged looks. This was worse than they had imagined. When? Linda asked. 10 years. They're building support slowly. By the time your quarantine ends, it will already be law. After Moraine and his crew were settled, Karen called an emergency meeting with Earth's government. The video conference included representatives from every major nation and colony. We have a choice, Karen told them. We can wait out the remaining 10 years and hope the Council doesn't pass this act. Or we can act now. Act how? Asked the European Union representative. We're still banned from Council space. Linda leaned forward. We don't go to Council space. We go everywhere else. The Council can't watch every system. Their territory is massive. And now we have drives that don't use their hyperspace lanes. You're talking about violating the quarantine, said the Asian Alliance delegate. I'm talking about helping people who need us, Linda replied. Just like we did before. The vote was close, but it passed. Earth would begin secret operations. They would use their new technology to help the oppressed species, but they would do it quietly. No announcements, no confrontations. They would be ghosts in the darkness. Daniel Ross came out of retirement to help coordinate the effort. He was 70 now, his hair white, but his mind was sharp. He sat in the operations center on Luna Base, directing ships across vast distances. Remember, he told each captain before they departed, you're not there to fight. You're there to help. Give them food, medicine, technology. Teach them what we learned. Then leave before the Council notices. The first mission went to the Kalari homeworld. Jake Morrison commanded the ship, with Lisa Morgan as his chief engineer. They arrived in the dead of night, their quantum drives leaving no trace in hyperspace. The Kalari resistance met them in a hidden valley. Jake and his crew unloaded water purification systems, medical supplies, and blueprints for sustainable fusion reactors. This is from Earth? A young Kalari asked, touching the equipment reverently. This is from friends, Jake replied. Build it, use it, and when you're ready, teach others. The Council doesn't control everything. They just want you to think they do. Over the next months, human ships appeared on 17 worlds. Always at night, always brief. They brought hope in containers and courage in conversations. The younger species began to organize. Slowly, carefully, they formed networks. The council noticed something was wrong when shipments started disappearing. Resources meant for Vraxi industrial plants never arrived. Factories on elder race worlds ran short on materials, but there was no evidence of human involvement. The Sol system remained quiet and sealed. In the council chambers, Christ addressed the assembly. Something is disrupting our supply chains. We must investigate. It's the younger species, the Vraxi delegate clicked. They're organizing, refusing contracts, and how? Prism demanded. They lack the technology. They lack the resources. No one had an answer. On Earth, Karen Price watched the reports coming in. Her network of ships had grown to 50 vessels, moving through the darkness like ghosts. Every week, they helped another world. Every month, the resistance grew stronger. Helen entered her office. Mom, we just got a message from the Sethri. They want to coordinate their actions with 4 other species. They're talking about a coalition. Karen smiled. The quarantine had 10 years left. But the galaxy was already changing. The council had silenced humanity's voice in their chambers, but humanity had found a way to speak through actions instead of words. And actions, Karen thought, were so much louder. The message came through on frequencies that should not exist anymore. Jake Morrison was running a routine patrol near Neptune when his communications officer picked it up. Sir, I'm getting something strange. It's using the old diplomatic codes. The ones from before the quarantine. Jake moved to the communications station. The message was simple, repeating on a loop. To any human vessel listening. This is the Sithri resistance. We need help. Please respond. It had been 30 years since the council had silenced humanity. 30 years of secret operations of ghost ships appearing and disappearing in the night. But this was different. This was someone calling out openly, desperately. Jake opened a secure channel to Luna Base. Within an hour, Daniel Ross was on the screen. The old captain was 80 now, but his eyes were still sharp. Do we respond? Jake asked. Daniel was quiet for a moment. Get their location. Go see what they need. The Sithri system was 12 light years from Sol. Using the quantum drives, Jake's ship could make the journey in 2 weeks. They traveled in silence, their hull modified to scatter sensor sweeps. The council had watchers everywhere now, paranoid about the mysterious disruptions to their operations. The Sithri homeworld was beautiful from orbit. Purple forest covered 3 continents and crystal cities dotted the surface. But Jake could see the scars too. Massive mining operations, orbital factories that dumped waste into the atmosphere. This was what the council called progress. A small ship met them at the edge of the system. Its pilot was Sithri, her feathers ruffled with stress. Thank the winds you came. My name is Kira. I lead the resistance here. They docked with her ship. Kira was young, probably born after humanity had been quarantined. But she knew their history. Our elders told us stories, she said, about the humans who spoke for us in the council. About Captain Ross and Diplomat Hayes. We thought you had forgotten us. Never, Jake said simply. We've been helping, quietly. We know. The purification systems on the Kalari worlds, the fusion reactors on Morthan, the medicine on Korthos. We know it was you. Kira spread her wings. But quiet help is no longer enough. The council is preparing to pass the Hierarchy Enforcement Act. Once it becomes law, we will never be free. Jake had heard about the act. Earth's intelligence network had been tracking its progress through the council. It was worse than they had feared. The act would legally classify species into tiers. Elder races would have unlimited rights. Younger species would be property. What do you need? Jake asked. Coordination, unity. You've been helping individual worlds, but we need to work together. All of us. The Kalari, the Sithri, the Morthani, the Korthan, and 50 other species. We need to organize into something the council cannot ignore. Jake sent the request to Earth. The response came from Linda Hayes herself. Do it, help them organize. It's time to step out of the shadows. Over the next months, Jake became a messenger between worlds. His ship carried encrypted communications, strategic plans, and hope. The younger species had been isolated from each other, kept separate by council trade routes and regulations. Now through human coordination, they were connecting. On Luna Base, Linda worked with Daniel to create what they called the Whisper Network, 50 human ships moving between 200 worlds, carrying messages and building alliances. The council still had no proof of human involvement. The Sol system remained quiet, but the galaxy was awakening. Commander Helen Price took her ship to the Morthani homeworld. The natives lived in orbital slums now, while their planet served as a vacation resort for elder races. Helen met with their leaders in secret. "We want our world back," said Elder Vorn, his face weathered with age. "But the Council has armies. They have weapons that can crack planets. They have fear," Helen corrected. "They've ruled through fear for so long that they've forgotten how fragile their power really is. What happens if 50 species say no at the same time? They would destroy us, would they? Can they fight 50 species across 100 systems simultaneously? Their strength is an illusion. It only works if you believe in it." The idea spread like fire through dry grass. The younger species began to see their situation differently. They outnumbered the elder races 10-1. Their worlds produced most of the galaxy's resources. The Council needed them far more than they needed the Council. Resistance cells began coordinating strikes. On Kalari, workers shut down the water processing plants that served Vraxi colonies. On Sithri, dock workers refused to load ships bound for Lumini space. On Morthan, the orbital slums went dark, cutting power to the resort planet below. The Council sent enforcers, but the Resistance had learned from humanity. They struck and vanished. They sabotaged and disappeared. The enforcers found empty buildings and silent faces. In the Council chambers, panic was setting in. The younger species are in open rebellion. The Vraxi delegate clicked furiously. "This is the humans' doing. It must be." Chris's glow was dim. "We have monitored Sol constantly. No human ships have left their system. The quarantine is holding." "Then how?" demanded Prism. "How are they coordinating across such distances?" No one had an answer. Human quantum drives left no trace. Human ships appeared on sensors only when they wanted to. Earth's technology had advanced beyond anything the Council used. Lisa Morgan stood in her workshop on Luna Base, putting the finishing touches on a new design. It was a communications array that worked through quantum entanglement. No lag, no signal to intercept, no way to jam it. She had built 50 of them. "These will change everything," Dr. Peter Grant said, examining one of the devices. "Real-time communication across any distance." "Get them to the Resistance," Lisa said. "Let them talk to each other without fear." The arrays were delivered by Jake and his crew. They traveled from world to world, installing the devices in hidden locations. The Whisper network became the Coalition network. The younger species could now coordinate in real time. Karen Price watched it all unfold from her office on Luna Base. Maps covered her walls, showing every resistance cell, every coordinated action, every small victory. 20 years ago, they had saved refugees. 10 years ago, they had delivered supplies. Now they were building an army. "When does the quarantine end?" Helen asked her mother. 10 more years. "But I don't think we can wait that long. The Council will see this as a violation. The Council silenced us for speaking truth. Now we're helping others speak for themselves. Let them complain." A message came through the quantum network. It was from Kira, the C3 resistance leader. "We are ready. 200 species, 400 worlds. We can organize a unified action, but we need humanity to stand with us. Not in the shadows anymore. We need you to come back." Daniel Ross read the message 3 times. He was old now, his hands shaking slightly. But his voice was strong when he recorded his response. "We never left. We were just waiting for the right moment. Get your people ready. In 1 year we return. Not as suppliants, not as petitioners, as equals. And we're bringing friends." The Council received intelligence reports about increased resistance activity. They moved the vote on the Hierarchy Enforcement Act forward. They would pass it in 18 months, making their rule permanent and legal. Earth began preparing. 50 ghost ships became a fleet of 200. Civilian vessels were retrofitted with quantum drives. Colony ships were armed. Merchant vessels became carriers. If the Council wanted war, humanity would give them war. But Linda Hayes had a better plan. "We don't need to fight them," she told the Earth Council. "We just need to show them that they can't win." They've never faced a unified opposition before. They've never had to consider that their power might end. Jake brought Linda to meet with Kira and the other resistance leaders. They gathered on a neutral moon, 50 species in one room. It was the first time many of them had met in person. "The Council thinks we're scattered and weak," Linda said. "Let's show them what unity looks like. When humanity returns to Council space, we won't be alone. We'll arrive with all of you. 200 species speaking with one voice. Kira spread her wings. And what will that voice say? That the old way is over? That the hierarchy is finished? That every species has the right to determine its own future? Linda looked around the room. The council can fight one species. They cannot fight everyone. The meeting lasted 3 days. Plans were made. Resources were allocated. The resistance became a coalition. And at the center of it all, quiet and determined, was humanity. On Earth, people watched the news with growing awareness. For 30 years, they had been isolated. Now they learned what their military had been doing in the darkness. The secret missions. The supplies delivered. The hope restored. Opinion was divided. Some said humanity should stay hidden, stay safe. Others said it was time to finish what Daniel Ross and Linda Hayes had started 3 decades ago. The vote came down to one question. Who did humanity want to be? The species that stayed silent, or the species that spoke for those who had no voice? The answer came back overwhelming. Return to the stars. Stand with the oppressed. Show the council that silence had not broken them. It had made them stronger. The council chamber had not changed in 30 years. The same crystal walls, the same elevated seats for elder races, the same metallic taste in the air. But today something was different. The chamber was packed with nervous energy. Chris called the session to order. We are here to finalize the Hierarchy Enforcement Act. This legislation will bring clarity to galactic governance and ensure stability for millennia to come. The Vraxi delegates stood. The younger species have become restless. This act will remind them of their place. It will encode into law what has always been understood. The elder races guide, the younger races serve. Around the chamber, the elder races nodded. The younger species sat in their lower seats, silent and bitter. They had no real vote here. Their objections would be noted and ignored. The vote was scheduled for the end of the session. 3 hours to make the subjugation of 200 species permanent and legal. Then the alarms began. Red lights flashed throughout the station. The council's defense coordinator rushed into the chamber. Unknown vessels approaching. Multiple jump points. They're appearing everywhere. Krith's glow flared bright. How many? Hundreds. And they're using technology we don't recognize. They're not coming through the hyperspace lanes. Commander Helen Price sat in the captain's chair of the Unity, Earth's newest flagship. Around her, 200 ships held formation. Human vessels marked with Earth's blue and green colors. But they were far from alone. All ships report ready, said her tactical officer. Helen opened a channel that broadcast to every ship in the fleet. This is Commander Price. We've waited 30 years for this moment. Today we return to the galaxy, not in shame, not in apology. We return as equals. Remember, we're not here to start a war. We're here to prevent one. Stay in formation and follow my lead. She switched to the command frequency that connected her to the coalition leaders, Kira of the Sethri, Moraine of the Kalari, Vorn of the Morthani, 50 others. Are your people ready? Helen asked. We have waited our entire lives for this, Kira replied. Our ships are in position. Helen took a deep breath. Then let's show the council what happens when you silence the voice of justice. She gave the order. The Unity jumped forward, quantum drives bending space around it. In an instant, the ship appeared in council space directly in front of the orbital station. But the Unity was not alone. From quantum jump points all around the station, ships began appearing. Kalari vessels with their graceful curved hulls, Sci-3 fighters small and fast, Morthani heavy cruisers, Korthan defense platforms, species after species arriving in perfect coordination. The Council's defense fleet scrambled to respond, but they were surrounded. For every Council ship, there were 5 coalition vessels. Helen opened a broadcast on all frequencies. Her voice carried to every ship, every station, every corner of Council space. My name is Commander Helen Price of Earth. 30 years ago, the Galactic Council silenced humanity for speaking truth to power. They thought isolation would break us. They were wrong. We spent 30 years growing stronger, and we spent that time helping others grow stronger too. In the council chamber, the elder races watched in horror as the holographic displays showed the scale of the fleet surrounding them. The younger species representatives stood from their seats, their faces showing shock and hope in equal measure. Helen continued. We know about the Hierarchy Enforcement Act. We know you plan to make permanent the exploitation that has poisoned this galaxy for centuries. We're here to tell you that will not happen. Today, the younger species speak with one voice. And that voice says no more. Supreme Tactician Zirax, commander of the Vraxi War Fleet, opened his own channel. You are in violation of your quarantine. You are outnumbered. Our forces are vast, are they? Helen asked calmly. Count our ships, Tactician. We have vessels from 200 species. Every world you've exploited. Every people you've oppressed. They're all here. Are you prepared to fight all of us at once? On the bridge of his command ship, Zirax stared at the tactical display. The Coalition fleet was massive. More than that, they were positioned perfectly. His ships were scattered throughout the system. The Coalition surrounded the Council station itself. If he gave the order to fire, the station would be caught in the crossfire. Thousands of Council members would die, but if he did nothing, he surrendered control of the situation. Linda Hayes appeared on every screen in Council space. She was 70 now, her hair gray, but her eyes were fierce. Counselor Christ, Tactician Zirax, you have a choice to make. You can fight, and this will end in blood. Millions will die. The Council station will be destroyed. Or you can talk, hear what we have to say. Christ's glow flickered with uncertainty. You have violated the quarantine. You have brought war to our borders. We have brought justice to your borders, Linda corrected, and we didn't violate anything. The quarantine ended yesterday, 30 years to the day since you imposed it. We've been counting. In the chaos of the crisis, no one had checked. But Linda was right. The quarantine period had ended. Technically, humanity was free to return. They just happened to return with a fleet of allies. Helen broadcast again. We're not here to destroy the Council. We're here to reform it. The younger species deserve equal representation. The exploitation must end. Every sentient species has the right to self-determination. These are not negotiable demands. They are basic rights. On the Unity's bridge, Jake Morrison monitored the Council defense fleet. They're holding position. No weapons charging. They're thinking, Helen said. Good. Let them think. Aboard Zirax's command ship, the Tactician faced an impossible decision. His fleet was powerful, perhaps the most powerful in the galaxy, but it was designed to fight 1 or 2 enemies, not 200, and those human ships moved in ways he didn't understand. They could be anywhere, strike from any angle. More than that, he was seeing reports from across Council space. On every exploited world, workers had stopped working. Dock workers refused to unload ships. Miners abandoned the mines. Farmers left the fields. It was coordinated, simultaneous, impossible. Except it was happening. They've been planning this for years, his second-in-command said quietly. The humans. They've been organizing the younger species, building this coalition in secret. How? Zirax demanded. We watched Sol. No ships left. We watched the hyperspace lanes. They don't use hyperspace anymore. Zirax realized the truth. Earth had spent 30 years in isolation developing technology beyond anything the Council possessed. Then they had shared it with everyone the Council had oppressed. In the Council chamber, the younger species representatives were no longer sitting quietly in their lower seats. They had moved to the center of the floor, standing together. For the first time in Council history, they were unified. A Kalari representative spoke. We support Earth's demands. Equal representation, an end to exploitation, self-determination for all species. One by one, the younger species echoed the statement. 200 voices speaking as one. Chris looked at the elder race representatives. They had always ruled by dividing the younger species, by keeping them separate and weak. Now that unity was broken. If we refuse, Chris asked. Then you fight 200 species, Helen said. You might win. Your technology is advanced. Your fleets are strong. But how long can you fight? How many worlds can you occupy? And what happens to the Council station if this turns into a battle? Admiral Karen Price appeared on the communication screen. She was on Earth, but her presence was felt. We don't want war. We want justice. The same thing we wanted 30 years ago. You silenced us for it then. You made us disappear. But we came back. And we brought everyone you tried to silence with us. Daniel Ross appeared next to Karen. He was 80 years old, using a cane, but his voice was strong. I was there 30 years ago when you voted to quarantine us. You told us we needed to learn our place. We learned something all right. We learned that injustice thrives when good people stay silent. We learned that sometimes the right thing to do is to speak up, no matter the cost. We learned that we're not alone in believing these things. Kira's voice joined them. The Sithri stand with humanity. Moraine added his voice. The Kalari stand with humanity, Vorn spoke. The Morthani stand with humanity. Species after species added their voices. The broadcast filled with declarations of solidarity. On his command ship, Zarax made his decision. He opened a private channel to Chris. If I give the order to fire, we might win. But the cost will be catastrophic. The council station will be destroyed. Our fleets will be damaged. And we'll be fighting guerrilla wars on 200 worlds for decades. There is no victory here. What do you suggest? Chris asked. We negotiate. Hear their terms. See if we can find a middle ground. Chris was silent for a long moment. Then the Lumini's glow steadied. Very well. Tell them we will talk. But this is not surrender. This is diplomacy. Helen received the message and allowed herself a small smile. All ships maintain position but stand down weapons. It seems the council wants to talk. On Earth, celebrations erupted. Humanity had returned to the stars. But more than that, they had returned with the power to demand change. Linda Hayes sat in her office, watching the news feeds. Daniel limped in with 2 cups of coffee. They sat together in silence for a while. 5 years had passed since the day the fleet appeared over the council station. 5 years of negotiations, arguments, compromises, and slow, difficult change. The galaxy was still adjusting. Daniel Ross walked slowly through the new council chambers. His cane clicked on the floor with each step. The room looked different now. The elevated seats were gone. Every species sat at the same level. The younger races no longer watched from below while elder races decided their fate. He found a seat near the back and watched as the session began. Linda Hayes sat at Earth's delegation table, her hair now completely white. Beside her sat Commander Helen Price, who had been promoted to Admiral after the successful Reformation. Across from them, Kira represented the Sithri. Moraine spoke for the Kalari. Representatives from 200 species filled the chamber. The old council members were still there. Krith's glow was dimmer these days, the ancient Lumine showing signs of age. Even the Vraxi delegation looked different, more subdued. Supreme Tactician Zrax had retired after choosing negotiation over war. His replacement was younger, more open to change. Councillor Hayes, as Linda was now known, stood to address the assembly. Today marks the 5th anniversary of the Reformation Treaty. 5 years since we agreed to rebuild the Galactic Council into something better. The question before us now is simple. Are we succeeding? The chamber murmured with discussion. The treaty had reorganized everything. All species had equal votes regardless of their age or power. Exploitation was illegal, with enforcement mechanisms that actually worked. Development had to be sustainable. Trade agreements required consent from all parties with no more contracts written in languages the signers couldn't read. But change was slow. Some elder races resented their loss of privilege. Some younger species wanted revenge for centuries of abuse. Finding middle ground was exhausting work. A new Vraxi representative stood. His name was Klixth, and he was part of a younger generation that had grown up questioning the old ways. The Vraxi Collective has completed withdrawal from the 17 disputed worlds. The native populations have been given full control. We have paid reparations as the treaty required. It was a grudging statement, but it was progress. Daniel remembered when the Vraxi would never have admitted wrongdoing at all. Moraine rose next. The Kalari oceans are healing. With Earth's purification technology and our own labor, we expect full ecological recovery within 20 years. Our people are free. Our children will grow up in clean water. Around the chamber, similar reports came in. The Sithri had renegotiated all their labor contracts. The Morthani had reclaimed their homeworld. The Korthan were rebuilding. 50 species shared stories of recovery and growth, but there were also struggles. A Lumini elder named Prism spoke reluctantly. My people are adjusting to the new reality, but many feel that we have lost something precious. For 10,000 years we maintained galactic peace. The hierarchy was stable. The hierarchy was unjust, Kira said firmly but not unkindly. Stability built on oppression is not peace. It's just slow violence. I know, Prism admitted. The Lumini's glow flickered with what might have been shame. We told ourselves we were maintaining order. We didn't want to see the cost. Or perhaps we saw it and chose to look away. Linda spoke gently, recognizing that as the first step. The elder races have wisdom and experience that the galaxy needs. But wisdom means understanding that no one should rule over another without consent. Your knowledge can help us all. It just can't control us all. The session continued for hours. They discussed trade routes, resource allocation, scientific cooperation, and cultural exchange. It was tedious work. Democracy always was. But it was better than the alternative. After the session, Daniel found Linda in the corridor. She smiled when she saw him. "Hard to believe it's been 35 years since they quarantined us," she said. 35 years since we stood in this station and watched them vote to silence us," Daniel corrected. "Best thing that ever happened to humanity," Linda laughed. "Only you would say that. I mean it. If they hadn't quarantined us, we would have kept begging for scraps at their table. Instead, they forced us to stand on our own. We discovered we didn't need them. That realization changed everything." They walked together through the station. Through viewports, they could see ships from hundreds of species docked at the station. Human vessels marked with Earth's colors. Kalari waterships, C3 atmospheric fighters. A functioning, diverse galactic community. On Earth, life had changed too. The planet that had been isolated for 30 years was now a hub of galactic activity. Students from alien worlds studied at human universities. Human teachers worked on distant planets. Trade flowed in both directions. Culture mixed and evolved. Admiral Karen Price had retired 2 years ago. She spent her time now teaching at the Solar Naval Academy, training the next generation. Jake Morrison was one of her star pupils turned instructor. He taught courses on coalition building and diplomatic intervention. Lisa Morgan ran a technology exchange program, sharing Earth's quantum drive technology with any species that wanted it. The monopoly the elder races had held on faster-than-light travel was broken. Now everyone could move through the stars freely. Dr. Peter Grant had won the Galactic Science Prize for his work on quantum field manipulation. He donated the prize money to fund research stations on former exploitation worlds, helping them develop their own scientific communities. Helen Price commanded the Unity, now designated as the Coalition's flagship. The ship's mission was to explore uncontacted regions of space, but with a new mandate. They were to make contact as equals, not conquerors. They were to offer friendship, not dominance. On the Unity's bridge, Helen reviewed reports from her crew. Lieutenant Carl Jensen, fresh from the academy, was her new tactical officer. He was part of a generation that had never known the old council, never experienced humanity's isolation. "Admiral, we're approaching an uncontacted system," Carl reported. "Sensors show signs of early industrial civilization. They might achieve spaceflight within a century." "Then we observe and wait," Helen said. "No contact until they're ready. And when we do make contact, we do it right. As friends offering help, not masters imposing rules." "That's not how the old council did it," Carl observed. "Exactly. That's the whole point of the Reformation. We don't repeat the mistakes of the past." Back on the council station, a special ceremony was taking place. Daniel Ross, now 85 and in poor health, was being honored. The new council had created an award for individuals who had advanced the cause of justice and equality. Daniel was the first recipient. He stood slowly, leaning heavily on his cane. The chamber was packed, every seat filled. Even species that had opposed the Reformation attended. This moment transcended politics. 35 years ago, I brought evidence of exploitation to this council, Daniel said, his voice weak but clear. I thought they would care. I thought presenting the truth would change things. Instead, they silenced me. They quarantined my entire species. He paused, looking around the chamber. I was angry, hurt, confused. How could they see suffering and choose to ignore it? How could they value stability over justice? But now I understand. The old council wasn't evil. It was comfortable. Change is uncomfortable. Admitting you've been wrong is painful. It's easier to silence the messenger than to hear the message. Daniel's eyes found Christ in the crowd. The ancient Lumine met his gaze. Counselor Christ voted to quarantine humanity. I won't lie and say I forgave that easily. But I understand it now. You were protecting a system you believed in, a system that had brought you success and power. What I want to say to you and to all the elder races is this. Thank you. Thank you for quarantining us. You thought you were punishing us. Instead, you freed us. You forced us to stop relying on you and start relying on ourselves. You gave us 30 years to grow strong, and when we came back as equals. The chamber was silent. Daniel continued. But we didn't come back alone. That's the part I'm most proud of. We spent those 30 years reaching out, helping, teaching, building relationships. When we returned, we brought 200 species with us, not as followers, as partners. The lesson of the Reformation is simple. You can silence voices that speak truth, but you cannot silence the truth itself. It will find other voices. It will find other ways to be heard. The galaxy tried to make humanity disappear. Instead, humanity multiplied its voice through millions of others. Daniel sat down to thunderous applause. Even the elder races joined in. It was a moment of recognition, of acknowledgement that the painful transition had been necessary. Later, Linda found Daniel in a quiet observation room. He was watching ships come and go, a small smile on his face. Thinking about the old days? Linda asked. Thinking about the future, Daniel replied. Carl Jensen, Helen's tactical officer. He asked me yesterday what the quarantine was like. I realized he has no memory of the old council. To him, this is normal. Equality is just how things are. That's what we fought for, Linda said. A galaxy where the next generation doesn't have to fight the same battles. Did we win? Daniel asked. Linda considered the question. We started something. The Reformation is just the beginning. There will be setbacks. Some species will resist. Change takes time.